Well, let's talk about it even further. I want to bring into the program, friend of the program, Dwane Cates, legal analyst. Dwane, thanks so much for being with us. Let's talk about this even further. In your career, how common or customary is it for prosecutors to, publicly admit that they may have overcharged, incorrectly charged? Alec Baldwin's team of attorneys say they incorrectly charged in this case. Have you seen it before?
Oh, I have. And prosecutors very rarely admit it. It's usually a judge that tells them that they've made a mistake and rules against them. But thanks for having me on this topic. I've been waiting 25 years to talk about ex post facto laws that I learned in law school. I wondered when I was ever going to use that.
No, that is a very good point there. So Baldwin's lawyers argued this month that the DA in Santa Fe County in New Mexico had incorrectly charged the actor under a version of a New Mexico firearm law that was passed months after the fatal shooting back in October of 2021. So that's interesting there. Now, if convicted under that law, it's called a firearm enhancement. Baldwin would have received a minimum prison sentence of 5 years. Now it's been revised to a maximum of 18 months in prison. So if you're a prosecutor, are you embarrassed tonight? How do you make this grievous error if you are charging someone with a crime, but the law wasn't on the books when the crime took place?
Well, it's technically not a crime. It's an enhancement, which makes it even more unconstitutional. Because what the Supreme Court said was you can't punish somebody under a statute that didn't exist when the crime was committed. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're trying to add punishment to Alec Baldwin's case. And it's a pretty, I haven't run into it because it's not something that happens very often. And most prosecutors wouldn't make that mistake. And so, it was kind of unusual that they charged it that way to begin with.
So we know Baldwin's legal team has been fighting tooth and nail to have this prosecutor dismissed. They were citing some of her, partisan affiliations. I believe she's a Republican there in Santa Fe County. So because of that, they wanted her dismissed entirely. So we'll see where that goes. But this is a successful day for Baldwin's team of attorneys, is it not?
Well, all it really did was reset it back to where it should have been to begin with.
Okay.
So it really wasn't like a super big win. But, some people are complaining that the Baldwin and the prosecutors are complaining that Baldwin's team keeps filing motion after motion after motion. You want a vigorous defense because at the end of the day, if he gets convicted and he had a vigorous defense, he stays convicted. Okay. If they just sleepwalk through this thing and make mistakes, then if he's convicted, he could possibly get it thrown out. So you want him being vigorously defended in this case.
Yeah, so this all was precipitated by the fact that Baldwin's team of attorneys, they made this known. They said they thought he was incorrectly charged, and then the prosecutor, abided by what they were saying. So where do we go from here, do you think?
Well, it's gonna go down its normal course. Their lawyers are going to go through, and they're going to find every possible motion that they can file in a case like this, and it's technically in the homicide group of cases. So that's what you do. Now, I'm a little surprised that New Mexico, that manslaughter, has an 18-month cap, and in Arizona, you can get 20 plus years for manslaughter. So it seems like a really even involuntary manslaughter in Arizona, you can get a hefty prison term.
Just lastly, Dwane, help me understand this. So he's still charged with involuntary manslaughter, but they have taken away the firearm enhancement, which would have added more years on, if convicted, to some type of prison punitive sentence there. But the firearm enhancement, I know it wasn't on the books when he committed this, but it was with the firearm. How are we to make of that?
Well, technically there was a firearms enhancement on the books at the time, but it had limitations to what kind of cases it could be used in. And the new law changed that, where it would have been eligible in this kind of case had it been on the books when he committed the crime. So, again, 18 months on a manslaughter case is, even if he gets convicted and even if he gets the max, is pretty light.
Yeah. All right, Dwane Cates, we'll leave it at that. We always appreciate your insight into these major legal stories, and we'll talk again. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me on. Anytime.